Hi, I'm Matt McLachlan, historian and founder of McLachlan Battlefield Tours. Now, the most iconic time to visit the battlefields is obviously Anzac Day, and to find out where you can go and what you can do on Anzac Day, I'm joined by my General Manager of Touring, Matt Masson. Matt, why do you think so many people want to visit the battlefields for Anzac Day?
Anzac Day is one of those iconic times for all Australians that they remember those who served before them, and I think people enjoy travelling overseas together with like-minded travellers and understanding how the Australians actually fought in those battles and spending that commemorative service, whether it's one of the bigger services or a private service, hearing the last post, it just brings something really special home.
Now, it wasn't that long ago that Anzac Day meant going to Gallipoli if you wanted to go overseas, but now we see services across the world. What are some of the interesting new destinations that people can visit for Anzac Day?
I've personally spent quite a bit of time in Asia, and I was surprised at first to see that there are so many Australians that pay their remembrance in places like Thailand, Vietnam. I believe there's even services in places like Papua New Guinea. So we've expanded from, say, the Western Front and Gallipoli and moved into offering Anzac Day experiences throughout most of the regions we operate in.
Well, let's talk about those tours specifically, because I've led personally several tours to the Western Front for Anzac Day, and it's just extraordinary to walk those battlefields and to be at Villers-Bretonneux for that dawn service on April 25. Tell us a bit more about that tour.
The Western Front Anzac Day tour is our most immersive experience on the Western Front. It's 10 days and you get a chance to not only be there for Anzac Day, but to uncover all the battlefields the Australians fought in throughout the First World War. So many Australians had an ancestor, whether it's a great uncle or a great grandfather, who was killed or fought on the Western Front. So it's a very special time for those relatives to go and visit. And what McLachlan Battlefield Tours does is help them with that research. So our historians place those battles where they were fought, where their ancestors were buried sometimes, or brings to life that history of that family member. And in addition to that, they also get to be there at Villers-Bretonneux for the dawn service.
Gallipoli is the iconic Anzac battlefield. People have been going there for decades to commemorate Anzac Day. It's the site of the first landing, the first Anzac Day. What's different about our Gallipoli tour?
Our Gallipoli tour is the most comprehensive one available because we spend 9 days exploring Turkey, starting in Istanbul, getting a chance to feel the culture and understand a bit about the Turkish history, but also spending 5 or 6 days on the Gallipoli Peninsula, uncovering all the different battlefields.
Anzac Day is not just about Europe though, because there's some major Australian battlefields in Asia where Anzac Day services are now held. Why don't you tell us about a couple of those?
Well, this year, Matt, we're offering a tour to Vietnam for the first time, which is not a place that's synonymous with Anzac Day. But the Australian battlefields are just to the south of Ho Chi Minh City, and we spend 12 days in Vietnam, not only discovering the Australian battlefields, but understanding more about the American War and the French wars that preceded the conflict in the 60s and 70s. So the tour for Anzac Day will be spent at Long Tan, which is where the most famous battle, the Battle of Long Tan, was fought. And there will be a private commemorative service because the war is still a sensitive issue in Vietnam. It wasn't that long ago, and there's a lot of veterans in Vietnam that are still around. And the government there is accepting of Australians, but they don't make a big deal about the ceremony like they do in Villers-Bretonneux in France or in Gallipoli. So after exploring the battlefields with our incredible historian, Gary Mackay, who was a veteran that won the Military Cross in the last battle that the Australians fought in Vietnam, Gary will tell you everything about his experience and also escort you as you head up to central Vietnam and northern Vietnam.
Matt, there's a very special Anzac Day service that's held in Thailand every year. Why don't you tell us about the tour that takes that in?
So our Hellfire Pass Anzac Day tour has just started in 2019, and it covers an area to the north of Bangkok where the POWs were based during the 1940s, and they were building what was known as the Death Railway, which was a railway line the Japanese were constructing from Burma through to Thailand. And unfortunately, many of those POWs were killed during that time. It's a really beautiful ceremony. I've been fortunate enough to be attending the dawn service at Hellfire Pass, and the sound of the bugle echoing through the Hellfire Pass cut is just something so special. And I was there with about probably another 100 or so people, and it was a beautiful April morning in Thailand, and afterwards we gathered for a shotgun breakfast, and it was just one of those moments. I was very proud to be an Australian.
Well, Matt, thank you so much. Anzac Day really is an iconic journey, and every Australian should visit an overseas battlefield at least once during their life for Anzac Day. So give us a call or visit our website to find out the full details about our Anzac tours and commemorate Anzac Day overseas.